I just did a talk at Dalhousie. It was interesting to see how many questions the students had around, okay, what should I be doing to prepare myself for work? Like, what should I do? Like, what should I pay? How do I pay attention? And the approach and the conversation was kind of, it was a fun one in that regards. So
were they worried at all with the market and everything, or did they seem really high spirited? Like, what was the mood?
I think a bit of both.
Yeah.
I don't, because I asked the question, there was about 50 students in the room, and I asked the question, how many of you right now have jobs like lined up for when you graduate? And only three had.
Oh man!
Now, I say
and they're all
three,
graduating within.
They're
like,
all graduating
okay.
in marketing, and you're kind of like, okay, well, that's January, February. They're hoping to start working in April, May. Okay, is that a bit of a concern? The energy, I didn't get that kind of concern, but I suspect there would be, because they did ask some other questions like, what should we do? How do we prepare? But I guess the thing I found is that I don't feel like they're maybe as prepared as they need to be.
Mm.
So my conversation with them was more around be open to a variety of opportunities. So not always just think it's got to be a marketing gig, because marketing, sales, and success are all interconnected.
Right. They're all kind of the, I don't know, say same slice of the pie or the same pie or something
well,
like that?
I wouldn't say that, because I was thinking about that on the drive up is marketing and sales have always had this butting head situation, right? Oh, don't talk to marketing. Don't talk to sales. Oh, we don't work with them. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because you should be working with them, right?
Marketing
feeds the funnel
Yeah.
into the sales close the deal, and then success takes on the relationship. So it's now that trifecta, right, of marketing, sales, and success. So one of my comments to the students was like, be open to other roles, sales roles, success roles, whatever it might be, because you're all about engaging customers and selling and helping their life with a product or service or whatever it might be, right? So be a bit more open to that, which I think a few of them weren't thinking that way, because I think a lot of them were always just thinking about marketing. I got to get a job in marketing. And I was thinking another story. I mentioned I'm a mentor with Creative Destruction Lab, and we were at an event, and I was sitting there talking to a gentleman from, I think he's California, and he's a VC, a venture capitalist. And this young student comes over from a local university and starts chatting to us and says, well, what should I do? I'm trying to get into business. Where should I go? What should I do? And before I could say anything, he stepped up and said, sales. He's like, get into sales, because right now with the companies he's looking at, and investing in potentially, they're lacking in sales.
And good salespeople too. I think it's hard to be a good salesperson.
Yeah, because there's a lot of marketing, and there's a lot of marketing stacked technology tools. AI is helping big there. So the selling piece is that possibly more human connection that the company or brand is trying to make with somebody to close the deal, and then you feed into the success piece, and that's like the ongoing relationship, proactive engagement, life cycle, like renewals, retention, making more money off of the people that do business with you. Like that's another level of engagement. So that's why talking to the students is like, okay, keep in mind how these are all interconnected, and it's not all about the flashy marketing, big ad campaigns.
You're not going to go fresh out of university and work on the Super Bowl commercials.
Exactly. I was just going to say that multi-million-dollar Super Bowl commercials. That's not it. And that was the other good point I said is like, you got to be prepared to have those conversations and be realistic. And when you're stepping into a marketing job in what you're doing, because you're not going to just jump in with a creative team and come up with this great ad campaign and rock it on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But it's just being open to kind of understanding then what's your part to play in the business success. So that was some of the comments I made to the students around what kind of questions you'd want to ask in an interview. It's like, okay, what are your revenue goals next year? What products are you launching? Like, ask these smart, strategic questions about the growth and the projection of the business, and then say, well, how am I going to play a part in that? Like, I want to play a part in the success of your company. So how am I going to do that? So instead of saying, oh, what's your, I want to help with your social media following and make all these cool posts, and no. Like, you will do that, but they will respect and appreciate those bigger questions around what part do I play in the overall success of the business?
It's like digging into the problems that a specific business is having, and then figuring out how you can be a part of the solution to help them reach their goals.
Totally.
Is that a shift that a lot of students and people need to have? Like, it's not about you specifically. It's about what the company has and how you can be a part of that.
Yes, I would very much agree with that, because when we, my company, when we come into any situation, the first questions we're asking them is, What is your revenue goal for next year? What are you trying to achieve in 2027 or so on? So everything we're going to recommend goes back to what the business goal is. So I think, yes, the questions they should be asking, the way they should be thinking is, okay, how can I help this business succeed? So to that point, then the interviews are intimidating. My oldest daughter is in second year university, and she just went through a whole interview process to get a summer job, and it's intimidating, especially for that generation that may not be as comfortable publicly. Getting up. What generation is comfortable publicly speaking in front of 50 people or whatever? It's more to the point of being prepared to ask the questions in that interview, and be okay with asking questions. Like that's, it's interesting when we've interviewed folks for kind of roles, we ask a lot of questions of them, and then I always flip it over. It's like, what questions do you have for us? Of
course, yeah.
And I feel kind of bad for those that don't have the questions. Like they haven't even done the research around understanding what the business is, what the team, who the team is, what competitors they might have up against them. Like they've not done that research.
So lack of preparation.
Yeah, and I think
is that a red flag to you in your mind as a hiring manager?
Oh, totally. Yeah. If they haven't done any research around the company they're interviewing for, I kind of say, okay, thanks, appreciate your time, and we'll kind of carry on the interview process. Mm-hmm. If they haven't done that preparation, it kind of just shows me, okay, well, are you really interested in this job? And then, but if they have, and then they start asking those next level of questions, saying, how can we, what are your goals? What can I do to help? Like, whoa, you are well prepared, and asking the smart strategic questions around how you in a marketing role or a sales role or success role can help push this business and brand forward.
Right. And when there's problems that I need you to help solve.
Yeah. And that's a lot of things, with marketing gigs or so, like you have to analyze your market. You have to see about your customers and who you want to appeal to and understand them deeply. You have to kind of position yourself in a unique and interesting way. Like these are things that you can also do in an interview and show your potential employer that you're keen to work for them and keen to grow the business, because all of that is tied into the promotion of the brand, but to the right people, right time, right channel, all that. So it just shows that extra level of energy and support and effort.
What would you say is the biggest problem, I guess, facing our youth today, especially when it comes to marketing and trying to find jobs?
We've touched on the preparation piece. I think that's for any job interview, but I'd say even more so with any marketing or sales jobs. If you do the work and really understand the opportunity you're going into. I appreciated your comment saying, don't just settle for anything. Again, my oldest daughter just kind of went through a few interviews and she chose a job that right now fits what she wants to do. And I applaud her for making that call. Now, she's still second year university, so it's still figuring out. So it's tough when you're fourth year and you're like, okay, this is the first step in my career. I guess the other thing to that point is for students is to realize that this first step is not the last step, right? You're going to make so many changes, so many adjustments. Part of the benefit of what you can bring to the table for any company is your flexibility, your different areas of interest, all that kind of stuff. And then as you get more jobs and experience under you, is that experience and knowledge. One of the other things I said in this conversation with the students at Dow is embrace AI. And it's tough because the schools right now, understandably, are being very strict on AI policies.
How so? Do you know? Like, I'm not really familiar with what they're doing.
I did a stint. I taught an applied marketing course at a local university, and I've always wanted to try my hand at teaching, and so I got in there, and I'm bringing to the table kind of practical, like I'm coming from a client meeting and walking to the classroom and talking to them about the client meeting.
Yeah.
What was interesting to see is how many students submitted work that was AI generated.
And you could tell.
Well, I use tools, and again, they're AI tools, evaluating AI tools. So, you've got to take it with a grain. But it gives you an indication of like 90% of this was written with AI or is AI generated. So you can kind of then go back to the student and say, are you sure you want to submit this? Because the policy of the university is that you cannot submit AI generated work as your own. You can, and my mindset was, okay, you can use it to start your thinking, or structure an idea you have, or, there's a whole variety of ways you can use it and use it smartly, but don't submit this work that, Chad or these other tools have actually given you and you've not done anything with.
Yeah.
It's out there. And I know a lot of students that are using it in the right way to give them study notes or give me a preparation test for this class, or so they're using it
it to bounce ideas off of,
to evaluate their knowledge. So to give them a 10-question test and then say, yeah, you got 10 right or whatever it might be. So that's okay. That's smart, but it's more, and that's a great way of understanding it further. And it's a tough time right now, because when they enter the workforce, they will be needing to use and work alongside AI.
So in what way would you recommend them to start using AI?
Part of it is just self-discovery, is to go in there and use it, but also get creative with it. Because I know from work we do, we've definitely saved time in using it in a variety of ways, be it market research and evaluating, customer markets or customer profiles, things like that. But it's more about the prompting and also getting the source of the data that they're using, because that's the thing we often find with AI is it's not always accurate.
For sure.
But I think a lot of with the students, it's just trial and error. And I think that's possibly back to the universities, is to say, okay, how can we help these students be more in tune with AI and more prepared for AI, instead of, yes, we can't let them submit AI generated work as their own, but we can work with them to understand the platforms and opportunities and ways to use it. And a lot of schools are doing that now, but some aren't.
I was going to say, I mean, it's so fascinating. Whereas in schools, don't use this tool at all. This is cheating. You're not allowed to use this. Yeah. But then as soon as you're done, you have to use this or else you're going to fall behind. It's like, what's going on here? Do they need to teach it then? Or be like, you know what? As part of the course, we're going to show you how to use AI effectively in this specific role. Because it seems like that's the disconnect here.
Yes, the short answer to that is universities need to do more and more. And they're getting in tune with it. And they've got classes and they've got, profs and researchers and everything else using it. So it's not as if they're ignoring it and saying, oh, no. But it's just that they're in a tough place, though, because of the policies they have. And understandably, not submitting AI generated work as your own. But if you're submitting work and you show me the prompts that you used, okay, that gives me an understanding of how you're thinking about this, like the critical thinking part of it,
You could almost evaluate how they're using AI in a work framework.
And that's a tough thing, right? Because if the schools are not allowing them to use AI, and then they walk out into the workforce and they're expected to know how to use AI, because you're young people, social media and AI, you should know all this stuff. And that's often the expectations of the companies. Yeah, it's like, well, no, like they know it's social. The social media they know of personally, but they don't know how to possibly manage it from a brand and corporate standpoint. AI, well, we were told not to use it, so it's a tough dynamic for them right now because of that.
You said something that was very interesting. Are people that are good with social media personally, does that translate necessarily to being really good as a marketer working for a brand, or is it a complete disconnect?
I wouldn't say it's a complete disconnect. I just find, and we find this with clients, it's like, oh, well, we'll just hire a new grad to manage our social media.
Because they're young, they're hip, they know.
Exactly, and I get shudders when I do that, because the challenge that they will face is that the new grad doesn't know how to deal with a bad customer situation, right? Like they can create really cool content, they can put it out there. They may understand the brand parameters that they're working with, but that'll come in time. Mm-hmm. But then when a customer complains and they slag them on Facebook or wherever, they won't be fully prepared or possibly educated to deal with that, right? Because that is a customer success management type of situation. You want to keep them happy. You want to bring them offline. And so we work with our clients to kind of manage that situation, but they're not ready for it. They don't know how to deal with it, and who knows, like the company might have trained them, but it might be the first time they're having to actually deal with somebody like that and deal with a complaint. That's the thing I'm always concerned about with when they say, oh, let's just hire a new grad to manage that, is are they fully prepared and ready to be in that role where something has gone sideways and they need to deal with something that is making them uncomfortable and making the customer uncomfortable, making the company uncomfortable. So that's always the big challenging piece that we're concerned about.
Could it be that people that are in that situation that don't deal with it properly, that they take it personally, where they're like, you know what? I see them. It's like, oh, I made a post, and then they're kind of bad talking my post. Yeah, I get personally offended. In a sense,
and we know, it's not just new grad. Like we know, owners of business that would take that something that's posted that personally. It's like, oh, they don't like my company. Well, we do. So there's always, I'd say there's always going to be that personal response, but then it's the preparation around that and being trained to say, okay, really sorry to hear about this. Here is our general manager's email or phone number. Please contact them, or we're happy to contact you. Like taking the whole situation offline. and then resolving the situation there, because pull them offline, resolve the situation if you can, and you turn them into an advocate of your brand, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because then they're like,
negative
well, they
experience into
listened to
something
me.
positive.
I had an issue. They dealt with it. Now I'm going to come back and give you a 5-star review to say thanks very much for all that.
That's such a good point. I've seen it so many times where you'd have the loudest person that's vocal against a company, and then someone gives them this service that people they complain and they expect nothing to happen, right? Because I'm going to complain, no one ever listens to me anyways. But then when someone takes them aside and walks them through whatever fixes the problem, they end up becoming like their best cheerleaders.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's like it's worth the time to try to fix those relationships.
Oh yeah, and that goes back to my comment about the trifecta, the sales, marketing, success dynamic, because in that situation, that's marketing, right? You've appreciated a customer, they've had an issue, you've recognized it, you've listened, you've dealt with it, you've handled it if you can. You can't always, and then you've resolved it, and they in turn become your best spokesperson.
Yeah,
that's back to the comment about the students and looking for work. It's like, okay, well, in a way, that's marketing. That's like one-on-one marketing, with then word of mouth is going to be the best marketing for you, because they're going to go out and tell people about this situation and how they resolved it and how great the company is. Because there's so many issues around retention for companies, right? They don't have that success mindset. They don't have that proactive engagement of customers. They don't treat them well. And my gosh, there's so many opportunities to do more business with people that are customers of yours, right?
When you say success mindset, what do you mean by that?
Customer success or client success has a kind of a certain structure and process and mindset. So a lot of times people think of, customer service, right? And a lot of customer service situations is you're fighting fires. You're dealing with a problem, after it's all happened, right? There's not any proactive engagement of your customers. We all have had customer service issues with companies, and they've reacted or not. But then the client success mindset is having that proactive piece, that you're engaging them all like on a regular basis. You're nurturing that relationship. You're handling a problem even before it starts, right? And you're building that relationship, turning them into advocates, getting them telling you a great story, and that when something does happen, then you've got that relationship already, and it's not blowing up,
right.
And you're generating more business from them.
Yep.
So that whole approach and mindset, a lot of companies don't implement, and a lot of it, like software as a service companies, have done a great job around that. But there's so much more opportunity for companies to switch their thinking. And interesting, back to the universities and colleges, even them, they're starting to switch their thinking, because instead of a department called student services, it's now called student success. So even just that switch of that one word, right? You're not just servicing it, you're trying to make sure that this person is successful. Great approach. So if you can do it, because it'll drive revenue. Right. It will be an actual revenue driver instead of a cost center.
To the young marketer that's listening to this podcast right now, is that would you say it's more on their plate to learn how to do this thing and how to be a good representative of the brand or the company they're working with? Or is it more on the companies themselves to help teach them and educate them on how to deal with these sticky situations with customers?
Well, I guess neither, because it should start with the learning they've just had through the universities or colleges they've gone through, right? So, and I think that's one area or one of a few areas the universities can improve on is, if they're talking about marketing, how are they talking about sales? Are they talking about success? There's a university in the region here that is very focused on sales, like training good salespeople.
I see. Okay.
Awesome. They're one of a kind where there's a lot of marketing courses and marketing focuses in business programs, but there's not a lot of sales focus. And I'd say the same with success. I don't think there's a lot of training and learning around success. What does that mean? How does that fit into business? Okay, if you're driving revenue, okay, there's acquisition revenue, and then there's retention revenue. Like, how are you supporting that? So I think that's originally where it should start. And then I think as the company grows, or if they have a system in place, then it's up to the company to kind of really train that member. But they've got to show them, okay, they've got that, either the hunter or the farmer. We talk about this with a lot of our clients. So a hunter is more of a salesperson, business development. They're hunting. They're willing to pick up the phone, call somebody they've never talked to before, and do a deal. Where the farmer is more of the success mindset, where you've now got the relationship. It's more like account management.
The nurturing.
You're nurturing, exactly. You're nurturing. You're kind of positively engaging this person, proactively engaging with this person, and getting more business out of that relationship.
as a young marketer, then it's almost like, would you say that it'd be good to kind of identify the type of person and the type of personality that they have, so they can maybe that can help them tailor, like, okay, maybe I should look for more of a customer facing job of like nurturing, as opposed to the aggressive, maybe the sales one where they might not be.
I think it goes back to kind of, these evaluating, and it's interesting again, the interview process. Some companies put these, what was it, Myers-Briggs, kind of evaluating the personality of the individual.
Yeah.
It's interesting, are you an extrovert, are you introvert, or are you a little bit of both? And that definitely comes into play, because how comfortable are you? Are you comfortable just dealing with one person that you've now got a great relationship with, or are you willing to pick up the phone or speak to somebody on a trade show floor and have a conversation about, the company you work for? Like there's definitely different personalities that fit into those roles. So I think it's interesting if the students do some of that. I think some of the schools definitely do that with them.
Yeah,
is to figure out kind of what kind of personality profile do you have in that regards.
You said a lot of great stuff here about marketing and helping young students kind of get out into the workplace. But maybe let's give our audience a little bit of background. Like why should they listen to you? Like what's your working experience?
Well, I always joke. I've got my hairstylist or barber says platinum hair instead of gray hair, so I got the platinum hair to showcase. So I've been in the business for over 30 years. I've been on the client side. I've been in the agency side. I've kind of worked with, local, regional companies, and I've worked with international brands. So it's been fun over the years working both sides and just doing all this. And so, but almost 20 years ago, I opened up my own shop called Dashboard Marketing. It was originally called Sean Williams Marketing Group, which was a very creatively named company.
Of course.
Yeah. And then my business partner joined me, who's my wife, and we rebranded it and launched it as Dashboard Marketing. And so our focus.
Were you married at the time when you did the rebranding? Okay.
Yeah. And it was quite funny, because when we first moved to Atlantic, Canada, I started working with a regional advertising agency, and she started working with a telecommunications company in the area. And then I went out on my own about 3 years later, and got into the business, got great clients, and some definitely ups and downs as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. She took me out and pitched me on joining the business, because she was doing a bit of an entrepreneurial angle with a couple other businesses she had, and then was taking on some consulting gigs. And she's like, well, why don't we join forces?
Yeah.
So she, took me to a local restaurant and outlined kind of the benefits of doing this. it was quite funny. But
join me, and together we could take over the galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we'll get into that a little bit, because I have a few questions about that. But before all that, like, why did you want to get into marketing? Like, was it just something? Did you always want to be a marketer, or
no? And I guess back to kind of that student side of things is, I was studying to be a photographer.
Okay, that
was my goal, and I wanted to be in the creative side, and I wanted to from the visual perspective, and always loved photography, but then I started working at a couple different gigs, and I got a job with one of the big breweries in the country, and started working for them in the summer and during the school year and all that. And it just opened up my eyes to this idea of...
It was Molson, right? You were working with?
Yes, yeah, Molson. It was awesome. It was like great summer job in university.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't ask for anything better. But it really opened up my eyes to the sales side, because I was doing sales on the campuses I was connected to. I was supporting sales in the summer gigs, and then we were launching a product. So Red Dog was a beer brand that is no longer around, but it was a massive launch.
It sounds familiar, Red Dog.
Yeah, if you look it up, it was Tommy Lee Jones was the voice of this bulldog, and they just had campaign like advertising everywhere. So being involved in that really kind of tweaked my interest around, like, wow, this is cool. Like developing the product, sampling it, getting feedback, and then going large scale marketing initiatives across the country. It was a neat angle. So that's kind of what piqued my interest. I guess the other side of it, I didn't really realize until a little later, was both my parents were in kind of the broad marketing and communication space. So my dad was in media sales, and my mom was in PR, and they actually were entrepreneurs, had their own companies, sold their companies, and worked for other companies as well. And I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, so that was not on the radar.
That's interesting, even though both your parents were entrepreneurs.
Yeah, because I kind of look back, it's like, why wouldn't I have thought that? But they were in that space. So that, my dad was sales and my mom was communications, PR. And it was just that also fed into the interest. It's like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where it's all getting connected. And so I started off working for a media buying shop, and then worked for some traditional advertising agencies, and went client side. And then interesting enough, and this I think again goes back to some counsel to the students, is I got let go. That's what sparked my entrepreneurial adventure.
Oh, like from the
regional
job.
agency
Okay.
I was at, I got let go, and I've never been let go before.
Was it like a layoff situation or downturn in the economy or something like that?
Well, it was kind of a downturn in the company.
Okay,
So they were starting to scale back, and ultimately they were absorbed into another company, and it was really unfortunate because it was quite a fun company to work for. I met so many people, not being from Atlantic, Canada. It was a shot to the ego. I'd never been let go. I'd always left jobs on my own choice. And I think that was, and I think I did mention this in the talk that I did, is, you got to be prepared for some of this stuff.
You never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen, right? And knowing that, some of these, people are going to be in these roles for only 2-3 years, okay, and then they're going to leave on their own choice, great. But there's going to be situations that they're going to be faced with where they're going to be let go. You look at worldwide, how many cutbacks there are because of AI and because of this and because of that. Like, it's something to be, weary of and be prepared for. And I had no idea, like, what the heck to do. But one of my past clients said, set yourself up. I got work for you. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Did you have any kind of shift in philosophy or mindset when that happened? Like, did it like, oh, okay, actually, I need to think of life in a completely different way now after getting let go? Because you probably never even thought that would have been an issue, especially if you're doing good work. You're just like, I'm a good employee.
The week before I got let go, they were asking me to possibly lining up a job for me to lead their digital marketing side of the business. So it's like, okay, well, that's
pumped
great.
Up. Yeah.
It was also shocking because my oldest daughter was 3 months old, and my wife was on maternity leave.
Yeah, that's not the great time to get let go.
No, so it's like, what the heck? And now I was interviewing for one job, I didn't get it, and then talking to this client, he kind of sparked the idea, and I said, okay, well, let me look at this. And I did look around. I looked at, there was a shop in New York that was a similar model that I wanted to establish. And because our approach is we don't have employees, we use freelancers and independents or technology to support our client initiatives, and it's very collaborative. It's kind of that crowdsourcing approach and mindset, and my partner and I bring kind of that strategic thinking to the table, because we do business planning, marketing strategy, brand development, digital marketing, all these things, but. So we'll be that, our approach is strategy
strategic
first.
partner. Yeah.
So our that's the mindset, but then, we bring the right people to the table
because it depends on the job. Of course, every client's different. Yeah. Do you feel like the stuff that you went through as a kid with your parents seeing that, like, did it rub on you more than you think in order to be like, oh, well, maybe it's not a bad idea to go on my own? Because I feel like a lot of people in that situation where you got a new kid and there's no money coming in, and it's like, it's super panic. It's like, nope, I'm just full on going to look for work because I need to, play it safe in a sense.
Yeah. No. And your comment is very valid, because I look back now and I think it had a lot more impact on me than I ever realized. And I even, still talk to my mom, who she's retired, but still definitely has the mindset to kind of, oh yeah, when we did this, and so it's always interesting to talk to her about kind of when she owned the business and what worked, what didn't. Now a lot's changed since then, but and it's interesting again that one of the students in the talk I did asked me about that, about the entrepreneurial side. They were keen to kind of explore that, and that might be more of their focus. And it can be scary as hell, being an entrepreneur. But it can also be so rewarding and so much fun. Like, I was able to pick up my daughters from school and walk them home, right, at 3:30 in the afternoon. Yes, there were other times where I was away for a week or whatever, but, the flexibility and other bonuses. And again, our model is to be as embedded and as involved in our clients' business as possible. And that was something that I always found was held me back in my other roles. So in our current role, one of the services we offer is a fractional CMO role. So we can actually step into a company, work for them for 3 days a week, and lead their marketing department. And be it, with the team existing or building of that team, like back to hiring students and new grads and all that. So the model of the business allows us to be fully embedded, where if I was at an advertising agency, I couldn't do that. And when I was client side, I wanted somebody to do that for me, but there was no offerings and no solution for me. Like I have to make crazy hourly rates for the agencies I was working with. So we can now be so loyal and embedded and a key part to the success of that company that it's even more fun than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah. So on a personal level, getting laid off and having the opportunity to explore entrepreneurship seems to have really, obviously doing it for such a long time, has given you this sense of purpose and this sense of fulfillment in the work
Definitely.
that you do.
Yeah. And that, I guess, kind of bringing it a little bit back to what we started talking about is, when I went out on my own, I had no idea what to do. One bit of advice was get an accountant. It's like, okay, great. Got that done. The other one was to incorporate the company. It's like, okay, a couple of years later, I did that. But as I got further into it, I wanted to give back. And I wanted to pass on the advice and knowledge, be it from the entrepreneurship side or from the marketing side. And so I've become a mentor, an expert in residence in a variety of organizations in this region and kind of that have a national and international scope, but also the universities and colleges. Like I've gone in and guest lectured to a number of different classes, like colleges 2 years, university 4 years, MBAs, all of this to kind of talk about marketing on one side, but also here's a bit of the journey that I've experienced, and maybe some of you kind of see some insights or
get some inspiration, maybe.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to kind of give back, and I think that's another thing that universities and colleges need to do more of, is to bring folks like us, experts in our spaces, or just people that know more stuff than they might, and know about stuff that's happening right now, and bring them in the classroom and have them talk and answer questions and pass on the knowledge. Because when I did do that applied marketing course, I brought in 3 or 4 of the folks that I work with to talk about market research, to talk about digital marketing, to talk about, just different things that they know and do every day.
Yeah, it's this, and this is real education, because this is stuff that's happening. It's not this textbook that was written 20 years ago, which might be a little out of date. Like this is actually people that are making money right now. And you can learn so much more from that, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's funny you say the textbook I had for the applied marketing course, it was, I think 3 years old. And so when I was teaching the digital marketing section, I said, guys, don't even bother looking at the textbook. It's out of date.
Even though it's only 3 years old.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
What I'm going to review with you is what you need to know for the exam and what's currently happening. But
right.
And I think that's another challenging part of marketing, specifically in the higher education environment, is it's changing so much.
And academia is they're slow to change. They're large organizations.
Yeah,
sense.
And they may, the challenge is, like a textbook being 3 years old. Well, that's okay when you're talking about kind of the origin story around brand strategy, customer understanding, things like that. But then when you talk about digital marketing, the channels, consumption of that social platform, whatever it might be, that's all changing on a weekly basis, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now with AI, of course, it's just another level of information that they aren't capturing or featuring in a textbook.
Even for me, I feel like if I don't spend it's been a couple of weeks since I've looked at what's going on with AI, and then I'm like, I'm lost already. Like it's crazy. Yeah. Speaking of change and things that, kind of evolve over time, like you said, you've been in the marketing gig now for 30 years. What have you seen that has changed in the industry?
Certain things have changed, but a lot has stayed the same.
Okay.
Or maybe just come back. Because one of the things, and this is where you and I first met, was at Social East.
That's right.
I did a talk last fall at Social East on brand. And we do a lot of work around brand at Dashboard. And I feel right now it's even more important than it ever has been.
To establish a good brand, okay.
To establish it, to manage it, to foster it, to evolve it, to possibly blow it up and start over. Like this idea of brand is, I think, so important, and especially with things like AI, social media, all of these impersonal, non-human interactions, because that is the biggest thing I find right now is, people are losing that connection and aren't prepared for that human-to-human contact anymore. But that's what marketing and business a lot of times is. because even in the most technical, functional, dynamics of B2B, it's still human to human, right? You still have a person talking to another person about this product or service and how it's going to evolve or help or grow the business, right?
Yeah.
Solve a problem. So I think brand is something that's I've studied it for years, and one of the individuals that's really impacted a lot on me is David Aker. He's kind of like the godfather of branding, and his daughter is also quite well recognized in the space. But some of the books he wrote years ago are still so relevant now. And the mindset around brand is still so appropriate. And I think a lot of companies don't respect or appreciate that as much as they should. Because we just did a blog recently about how brand needs to sit at the leadership table. Doesn't sit in marketing. It should be at the leadership table because brand touches everything connected within your company.
Can you give me an example of how companies might be getting this wrong?
A brand is out there in the marketplace telling their story, promising that they will deliver this. You say, okay, great. I'm buying your brand. I'm going to come into your family and be part of this. And then the brand doesn't deliver on the promise as a current customer, right? Like, there's a lot of organizations out there. They'll give you free iPads and offers and whatever to get you in. And then once you're in, their brand promises maybe they care or this or whatever, and they don't deliver on that brand promise.
So it's a disconnect between what they say and what they do.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing when they think about developing a brand. Oh, well, we'll just write something quick for the brand promise or whatever, the piece is. But then it's like, okay, well, how are you delivering on that brand promise? And is the product being developed to deliver on that brand promise? Are the partners, like raw material you're buying, are they helping deliver on that brand promise? And does that fulfill what you've said? Like, there's so many elements. When you talk about startups and lean canvas, your whole lean canvas is part of your brand. Right? So growing that and every part of your business, like even how you pay your bills, accounts payable, making sure that they're paying bills within 30 days and not stretching it out. We've had a client recently that really stretched out a payment. Okay, then you're not delivering on the brand that you supposedly say you are, right? You kind of think, oh, well, but it's all part of the brand. So that's why I think it's even more important this day and age, because we're also very skeptical. There's a lot of fake news. There's a lot of negative stuff out there. We're questioning AI. We're questioning this. We're questioning that. The world leaders are making us question a lot of things. So making sure you've got a human-focused brand and really owning it and making sure leadership has a connection to it, not just marketing, that I think is one of the biggest things that's changed, but has brought us back.
I don't know how many times I've been on a phone call or calling a customer service, and you get on the line and then some machine, your call is important to us. We value everything. Please hold for the next 30 minutes while we get some. It's like, oh, come on. What a disconnect, right? Well, we value people, but yet you can't even have someone come on the phone with me to help solve my problem.
No. And I tested this once with the a financial institution we actually work with. Their offers are all, giving away stuff to get you as a new customer. And then I reached out to a contact I had at the institution and said, well, I see you're giving away a free iPad. I've been a customer for 10 years. Could I get the iPad? No, that's an initiative for new customers. It's like, well, why? I've been with you for 10 years, haven't caused you any troubles, happy to do more business with you.
You're making a lot of money off my money sitting in your bank. Yeah.
Where is that appreciation piece? And so many companies they miss that opportunity. I shouldn't say they don't do it. They just don't, they may not be thinking about it, but they miss the opportunity, because to be appreciative of a company, of a customer, thank them, surprise and delight is a bit of a buzz, phrase around that. Like, it's not hard. And if you do it, you will see some direct revenue from that.
I've complained about this on this podcast before of banks where they're like, open a new account. You get $600 or they're giving away a good bonus. And I'm like, I've been with you for 15 years. Yeah. This is unbelievable. I should be more valuable than some new person.
Oh, totally.
And it makes you want to switch. When you look at the financial institutions here in Canada, the big five or the big six or what have you, does that make companies complacent to not want to try to surprise and delight? Because it's like, well, where are they going to go anyways? Right?
I don't know. I would agree with that. I think there's definitely sectors that are like that. Banks are one. Telecommunications would be another. Airlines, air travel, definitely an issue there.
Yeah.
WestJet they definitely being put into a situation, and with cramming people into smaller seats and all of that, like, and their brand positioning and their the kind of the mantra they took for many years was about they care. They're owners that care, right? Not sure they're delivering on that brand promise anymore, right? So yeah, I think there are certain sectors and companies that might be complacent. The funny thing, whenever I deal with some of the startups I advise and stuff, and they say, well, we don't have any competition. Sorry, I don't believe that. There is always competition. There's complacency. Complacency is competition right there. And so there's always a need to evolve. And we have a client right now that our main focus, because they're in a sector that isn't growing, and our focus is about retention, is keeping their current customers as happy as heck.
It's like the newspaper industry or something like that?
It's a home heating sector. And so, the technology that's being used in heated homes now has changed and evolved. And so we're doing things like giving away pumpkins, like just dropping off pumpkins on people's front stoops around Halloween, right? Having a customer appreciation gathering down by the lights at the bottom of Connaught and Jubilee. Just doing fun little things, giving away free pizza. We did a promotion with a local pizza company. And it's like,
oh man, I'd love to have free pizza.
Yeah, and the redemption rates for that was awesome. Like, we got the numbers and all that, and it was great. And you saw the numbers. The pizza company definitely saw an increased business. And for us, it was just more about thanking our customers and say, we really appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. And they're all about service, and that's the delivery of their brand promise, right? They're always about being there for them. We got you covered. We'll answer the phones. Like, it's all about that, and they're delivering on that brand promise.
I hope that's a takeaway that a lot of people, if you get one takeaway, I think there's lots of takeaways already for this podcast, but yeah, figure out ways on how you could deliver value above and beyond what other people are doing, and really kind of almost look to the things that you hate as a customer and just try to not do that in your own business. I think you get pretty far that way.
Well, and sorry, to cut you off, but go back to, again, to the interview process of a new grad, do the same thing. Like, walk into that interview with more information than you need and surprise and delight the person you're interviewing with, right? Like, you can kind of take the same approach, because if you are indeed, trying to get in marketing, you need to market yourself, and you need to do it in a smart, strategic, customer-focused way. So understand who your audience is across the table, and be that person that is like, well, I did some research and I looked at this, and what are your thoughts on that? And I with public information, I see that your revenue goals are this, but is that true? Like go that extra step to really kind of surprise them and go, wow, this person knows their stuff, and they'll be a good fit within our brand. The other thing I'll just leave this last bit is, it's interesting with marketing these days is also values. The whole brand values piece is really important, because people are choosing brands even more so now based on the alignment of values. So I'd say that it actually relates back to the interview process, that you want to work for a company that your personal values align with that those brand values. So having that conversation saying, well, I see that your brand values are this, so tell me more about that. Like, that's another level of discovery that the student can be, showcasing their level of research and interest. Say, well, my values are this, and I see you do this. Tell me more. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
because they're interviewing the company as well as the company interviewing them.
Tell me a little bit about why or how you align with me, so that I make sure that we're both together going to be a good fit.
Yep.
Is that the biggest problem that you're seeing that customers are coming to you for solving, or what is the biggest thing that you're seeing that people are having problems with?
Well, it's interesting. Two-part response, I guess. One is, they don't often know that they have a brand issue.
Okay. So
that's more the conversations I'm having with companies that are, just a startup level, like early stage business, to, a company that I've worked with that's 150 years old. They we get into it, and we do that discovery and that deeper dive into it and understand their customer, their brand positioning, all that. And then we realize, oh, there's a bit of an issue here. And we don't come at it saying, well, you got to redesign your logo, you got to change your name. Like, anybody that does that, for us, that's a bit of a red flag.
It's like a superficial change.
It is, because back to my earlier comment, like, your brand, it goes well beyond your logo and your name and all that stuff. Like, it's a core part of your reason for being, for your staff, for your products, your distribution channels, your suppliers, like all that stuff. So the brand issue comes to light after we get into it, because it's so interconnected to everything else, and directly connected to, say, the problem they might be initially coming to us for.
Right.
I think a lot of the companies that are coming to us it's quite a diverse mix, but they just need it. They need they're facing an issue around business or growth, right? That's often the case is how can I grow this business? We're a $2 million company and we want to grow to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's dig into that. And that's back to our kind of, when we look at things, that's not just about marketing, right? You're talking about, okay, do you need to hire your sales staff? Do you need to improve your product distribution? Do you need to improve your retail presence? Like, is your website broken? Like, there's so many other things
you really
that come
need to
into
do
play.
a deep dive into the company, what's going on, to really figure out what the answer is.
Yeah. So whenever we kind of do that bit of discovery, we dig into 3 things. One is customer, because a lot of these companies haven't even talked to their current customers in a while. And they can provide a huge list of things that are wrong or great things that they're doing. So that's one area. The other area is category, like the environment you're in, who you're up against, who's that sleepy giant, or who you're, butting heads against. And then the last one is brand. And we'll get into that conversation around, okay, what is your positioning? What are your values? Not your features. Let's talk about your benefits. Like there's, core things to really pull to light. And a lot of them haven't done that work. And it's tough, right? You're working in the business, not on the business. And this is a lot around working on the business.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about as well, too, that the brand positioning, the values, that has to come from the top, right? Like you said, it's in the boardroom. So is it something that you would recommend to entrepreneurs to try to figure out early on in the process of like, okay, well, what are you standing for? Like, what are your values?
Yes. Short answer is yes, because with some of the work I do with certain groups in the startup spaces, we have that conversation at that early stage. So they're developing their product and they know there's a problem. They've done customer discovery calls. They're still figuring a lot of stuff out, but we have that conversation now because we just want them thinking about it. Because as they grow, their brand's going to pivot. You might change your name, but you might change your positioning. You might change your market. You might change your customer. There's a whole bunch of different things that adjust. But at least if they start thinking at that stage that it isn't just about building a really cool product or service, it's like that's building a quote unquote business. You got to think about building a brand. And that's often when we talk to companies saying, are you building a business or you're building a brand? And there's definitely a lot out there that are just building a business, they're getting market. They're selling stuff and they're out there, but they're going to hit a ceiling where, okay, what's the value? What are you delivering on? What more can you provide these customers? And that's where they're kind of going, oh, well, we haven't done that additional work to really figure out who we are and what we want to be.
Is there anything else that you could recommend to the entrepreneurs? Like there's a lot of young entrepreneurs and people that are just starting on entrepreneurship. Aside from trying to build a brand, is there anything else that you'd recommend that they could think about doing in their whole marketing to kind of help them, get ahead or build a bigger audience or get themselves out there?
Yeah, I think, there's so many organizations that they can get involved in the sense of incubators, accelerators, and those kind of networks. And kind of part of my answer to that is also relates back to kind of, students going out there looking for work is networking it's old school, but it's new school. And I know it's tough for a certain generations, certain people as well, to get out there and network, right? They're introverts. They don't feel comfortable, large crowd of people, totally understand that. But it's still very important because especially for a young entrepreneur, you don't have the money to market. So the way you do that is go out there and make connections and see about opportunities through those connections. And you're not always selling stuff. It's like, okay, I'm meeting with you because I want you to know about what I'm doing. And maybe you can introduce me to 2 other people that have a very relevant connection to my business. So again, back to the interview. So if somebody goes into an interview and maybe it's not a right fit, then they say, well, do you know of any other opportunities or can you connect me with anybody else? Like those are some of the things that the young entrepreneurs or young, job seekers should think about is building the network and just getting connected to more people, right? Because for the most part, people want to help people. Back to kind of our mindset is like, I just want to pass on knowledge and insight, and you can take some of it, you can get rid of the rest of it. But, we've kind of gone through a bit of stuff, so you can maybe learn from that. But, LinkedIn's great for that. But, the human to human aspect is even better.
It's on another level.
Oh yeah.
It's such a common thread that I've seen across doing this podcast now. And your network is your net worth kind of thing, those kind of slogans, but it really is, people want to do business with people and people that they, they align with and that they like.
Yeah.
So go out there and shake hands and you never know what can happen.
Well, and it's funny with LinkedIn because again, this talk I did, Dal, there's 50 students in the classroom, And I said at the end, look, anybody wants to have a chat, please reach out. LinkedIn is kind of my social platform of choice, and happy to, carry on the conversation. And I think there was 4 out of the 50, 4 or 5 students reached out to me through LinkedIn.
Does that surprise you? As in, is it?
Yeah,
do you wish it would have been more?
Yeah, I would have expected at least half the class,
Like,
because they're in marketing.
Yeah, it's true.
So if they want to get out there and be known and get connected, and back to your point, build a network and the net worth, like, get out there. And if you meet somebody, connect with them on LinkedIn. You've now met me. And I've said to you, look, I'm happy to carry on this conversation. And for the 4 or 5, students that did, I just said, great to connect. Thanks for, meeting with, if I can help in any other way, please let me know. Like, I'm happy to carry on the so I'm willing to help these students in any way I can. But it really surprised me. I'm like, this is like what you should be doing. Like, after an interview, even if you don't get a job, like, connect with that person on LinkedIn, just saying thanks very much. And that follow-up is key, right? Like, that follow-up is key, just to say, really appreciate the interview and hope to see you again, whatever. But now you're connected to that person on LinkedIn.
Why do you think that it was that no one really connected?
It just goes back to possibly, the personal perspective of each individual and just not maybe feeling comfortable. The challenge, back to our earlier part of the conversation, is, you are needing to put yourself out there, right? You are graduating. You need to go out there and search for jobs. You need to go through 10 or 20 interviews before you have one potential opportunity. So you do have to kind of put yourself out there. So if marketing is indeed that space you want to be in, or sales or success, it is you've got to put yourself out there.
It's fascinating to me, though, because I never expect that, because we were just talking about how social media and kids these days, they're on it all the time. Is this like, is LinkedIn maybe not seen as like a cool hip thing for kids though, maybe? Like,
I would agree, but it's interesting because, yes and no. I'd say for those in 3rd and 4th year, they've gotten to a point they realize, okay, LinkedIn, if they're in business, I would for sure say they need to be on LinkedIn. How they use it, it is foreign, because it's not like Snap, it's not like TikTok, it's not like Instagram. Like, it's a different environment. And back to the education, I don't think they're being taught how to optimize LinkedIn at any university or college course, right? That would be awesome to do a day with, okay, let's dig into LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Even get somebody in from LinkedIn to talk about
For
LinkedIn. Sure. That would be a huge help to any of those students.
Yeah. And any student in any field, really.
Yes, agreed. Because LinkedIn and
but specifically for marketers, for sure.
Marketers, but also like the computer science side, the engineering, it is a great way to find work and expand your connections. But and I think it is interesting, because I have 2 daughters, one's 17, one's 19, and they're definitely social. Is their community, and I think though it's a challenge because. They don't pick up the phone anymore. They don't talk to people. They do voice records and then send that audio recording to each other instead of actually talking to each other. And it is an interesting dynamic now with this Gen Z and soon to be Gen Alpha, how they interact with people. And I think it's tough because they're not used to talking to people. I'm in my mid-50s, and how I met my wife at a pub on St. Paddy's Day, and we made it through a good buddy of mine, and like, it was human to human, where that kind of interaction and meeting new people doesn't happen as much as it used to. So I think that's the challenge. Is like I said earlier, young people are often intimidated publicly speaking or speaking with a small group. You kind of see where that's come from. But I think that the opportunity is to kind of work on that and do more with it, because if you're in a sales role or you're in a marketing role, you will be making presentations. You will be doing pitches. If you're an entrepreneur, like, you are pitching all the time, right? You've got to be up in front of private equity, VCs, other groups to kind of tell your story. So there's a lot of that comes into play with that younger generation and what's expected of them.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole other topic for your blog, for the podcast.
Yeah, we could go down another rabbit hole. For another day. Did you ever have any reservations from doing business with your wife?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love her, of course. She's smart as hell, And we definitely complement each other very well because of both her background, my background, our approaches. But it was definitely a concern because, I talked to a few people about working with their significant others. Some were very positive about it. Some were not. It's also, something we've in the now, 13, 14 years we worked together, we've continually worked on is trying to separate the two things. So if we have a date night, do we talk about business? Unfortunately, we always do because it just comes up. And
then you can write off the date.
I was just going to say there's some tax benefits to all of that. And we do, say we do a trip away. Well, if we're away, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about business and what the planning, process is for the next year or something. So it kind of makes sense, but
especially if you enjoy business and you enjoy your work you're doing, it's not so much of here we go again.
No, and like I said, we do complement each other, and I think if we look at the two of us, I'd probably be the tougher one to deal with at times because I get a little concerned when there's a certain amount of business or lack thereof, and she's definitely more even keeled that way, and a good balance to. I was
going to say helps balance and calm the boat there.
Exactly.
There's always ups and downs in business.
And I think it's just really like anything, and like any marriage, any relationship, it doesn't matter. Two friends, it's just being open and communicating. So if you're pissed off about something or your expectations are this, we've had those kind of conversations. It's I approach things this way and she approaches them that way. And I'm that doesn't work. Or she's saying that doesn't work. Well, let's figure out what does. So it's really making sure we talk about stuff as much as we can.
Would you say that communication piece is probably the most important thing that has led to you guys having a successful partnership in business?
I'd say that, but also just the dynamic of the two of us. Because like I said, we bring strengths to the table.
Right.
She is very creatively, great mind and has such a personality to her. And I approach things kind of more data driven, brand focused. So again, it's really a good complement. So I think that's the other thing is if you're going to be a partner with somebody, it doesn't matter if it's a friend or whatever, it's making sure you don't overlap, that you complement.
Don't get three partners that all are really great at coding, but no one can pick up a phone.
Exactly. Yeah, because especially I was talking to a good buddy of mine who was in Dubai, and he's got a financial tech company in kind of the crypto space, and he there's three of them, and they're all very different, right? He's the sales guy, he's social, outgoing. The other, I don't know the other two guys, but the way he's described them, they're very different characters. So I think from that standpoint, they really complement each other.
What would be the biggest or the best advice you would give to budding entrepreneurs?
I'd say balance. It's making sure you've got the right mindset around balance. I'm quite strict around not taking phone calls or responding to certain things after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
If a client calls at 7:30 at night, okay, it's probably not, it's never life or death, but it's probably something we can deal with tomorrow morning. Now that hardly ever happens. And things like if I'm off on vacation, I'm not responding. Yes, maybe I'll check email every once in a while, but I'm not responding. You have to have that kind of balance and the ability to bring in balance. Like I said earlier about being able to go and walk my daughter home from school, right? That was awesome to be able to walk to my kids to school, walk them back, just a little extra time with them when they were younger, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing is just making sure you've got a good sense of balance and borders and the structure. Okay, I'm going to work these days or work these hours or whatever it might be. And because some people I'll work in the morning for 2 hours and then the evening for 6. Okay, if that's how you're doing it, great. So you got the middle of the day to work, to have fun in. If that's your meaning, your definition of balance, great.
Yeah. Have you seen people in the industry or friends or colleagues that, they haven't found that balance and they burn out? What's the consequence?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think, and I've even seen it with my wife, Sarah, because she's very loyal, very committed to what she does, but sometimes she does get taken out. And I shouldn't say it's just her, but I've had to do work on my vacations at times because it just, the commitment we have to our clients, it just happens.
Going back to the values too. Is,
exactly.
You want to do right by your clients.
We are committed and want to do everything we can for our clients and loyal to them. So sometimes that happens, right? But if you can make sure it doesn't, then that's, I'd say, one of the biggest things for sure.
I like that. It's funny too because I don't know if it's the culture, but the hustle. You've probably heard the
Yeah,
hustle
yeah,
culture, right? Where it's
oh,
like,
yeah.
and I think I do get it too. Like sometimes there's seasons where, you know what, maybe, in order to meet some deadline or to get something out the door, you're going to be putting those 12-hour days for,
Yeah.
4 weeks or what have you. And I don't know if I necessarily think that that's a bad thing for a certain point of time. Like I think Alex Ramosi talks about like just being in different seasons. Like sometimes there's a season where, you know what, you just lost your job, you just have a new baby, you need money. Maybe you just have to put in the extra. But maybe, I think like what you said, find balance in that. Yeah, sometimes there's times when you have to go overboard, but bring it back, because nobody can go 16 hours all day, every day for forever.
Yeah,
Like it's
no, I like the reference on seasons, because, for summer, interesting enough with us, it gets lighter for us. Not every year, but because, everybody's away in August, so
100%.
Nobody's answering calls, nobody's doing any work. So,
Right.
so that actually works well for us. We're busy now because, certain budgets are ending in March, so we're getting a bunch of new work now. So we see the ebb and flow with that. But and yes, the hustle, and that's, I see that a lot with the entrepreneurs and even people now entering the workforce is, I would recommend trying to be more flexible and willing to put in the work, because this, people call me old school, or I go back, I'm a Gen Xer. Like that's what you had to do. You had to show up and put your time in and not leave right at 5 o'clock. And that's
make sure
good,
that
bad,
the boss
whatever.
sees you leave, or
Exactly.
the boss, when they're leaving, they see you, they're still there.
Yeah. And so that was my generation, and that's what we had to do. But I felt it definitely gave me a sense of work ethic and what I had to do and what I didn't want to do and so on. And I think now the challenge for new grads, all that is things like AI are taking some of your jobs away from you. So you do need to show that you're possibly willing to spend a bit more time on this, or think differently about that, or do things very not what you would have done 2 years ago, right? So I think
Again,
there is
what's going to make you stand out as a benefit to the company.
Exactly. And that's where that hustle comes in, and especially the young entrepreneurs I work with, like they recognize it, and they may not be having as much balance as they should, but they're in a different place than I am, right? Like I've got the decades in and the platinum hair to show, but I'm still hustling. Like my business almost 20 years, and every year we're still hustling. Like there's still new biz, there's still efforts, we're still out there, we're still meeting people. So, but it's just then, okay, how can you make sure that you're still getting time for you, making sure you're physically in a good place, mentally in a good place, like that. That's the burnout, right? That's not helpful to anything.
Yeah, 100%. And I fell into that trap as well, where it's like I'm working a lot, and then the first thing that usually happens is the poor eating habits come into play for me, and then okay, well, I don't have time to go to the gym, I can't go play hockey because I have too much work to do, and then it's 30 pounds plus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you gotta go back.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely finding the balance is key.
Back to the original part of the conversation around what potential employees are looking for is, what else are you doing? Are you involved in clubs? Where have you traveled recently? Like, we asked some of those questions
Doing
in the
some
interviews.
volunteer work.
Yeah,
maybe?
volunteer. And it was funny because, both my daughters were very involved in certain volunteer programs in kind of, younger school, junior high, a little bit of high school, and then they shifted in very much academic. And then you get into university, and sometimes that gets moved aside because it's a grind. You got to pay attention to your marks. You got to do well. You got to, learn. But if there's an opportunity to kind of do other things, that definitely, when I'm looking at resumes for potential, marketing employees, that's something I'll mention to the companies I'm working with. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. They did this, or that's kind of cool. So those other things they can do or show or reflect, it means something in my view to the resumes I'm looking at. So
I love that. Can you talk about something in marketing? It could be anything that you think that we need to be talking about collectively that is not being talked about.
I'm always going to beat this drum is brand. I think I try to talk about it all the time because a lot of people still are not talking about it or don't fully understand it.
Like because you're seeing that so many people they're just getting it wrong.
Yeah, they are. Or I wouldn't say they're getting it wrong. They just don't understand it. It's and we take the opportunity to kind of really educate them on that front. And like Social East, that was a great opportunity to kind of talk about brand in a way that hopefully some of the folks in the audience kind of didn't think about that way. I'd say that's one thing. I'd say, and this is something else I mentioned to the students at Dallas, is customer understanding. Really ensuring that you're always talking to and digging into and listening and responding and appreciating are your customers, because any business, it's relying on your customers, right? And a lot of folks, and we deal with like engineers and medical doctors and all like these founders, right, that are very technical or very into their space, but they sometimes don't realize that it is about the buyer. Right, your customer. Like, what do they want? What's the pain point they're dealing with? What's the issue they're having? Who else is involved in the decision making? That deeper understanding is so important to not just do once, but to continually look at it and evolve. And like I said earlier, continually talk to your current customers. They are such a source of good market research. We do a lot of one-on-one and quantitative research, one-on-one interviews and quantitative research with clients, and it's so much fun talking to the customers, because you get so many little nuggets and pieces of insight out of the conversation. It's really cool.
Probably some like aha moments as well too, where the business owner would be like, I had no idea my customers were thinking that.
Well, we worked with a local construction company that's like blown up, and they've got a great brand. And the main owner, like, he's from a marketing background, so he understands all of this. And we were doing one-on-one interviews with their customers a number of years ago, and my wife did most of the interviews, and she had one call with somebody, and the homeowner, because they were doing residential work, said, I missed them after they left.
Oh, interesting.
Like, when do you hear that from a construction company?
No kidding, eh? Because you're like, just get out and let me
exactly.
give me my home or whatever.
They were respectful to the space. They would clean up cigarette butts afterwards. They gave Timbits to folks around them, like,
just the little things.
Oh my gosh, it's such a Bruno is the company, and their tagline is "Let's be friends."
Oh, are they like a global company?
No, they're more
local,
more Nova Scotia, I'd say.
Okay,
they're commercial and residential, but they've done such a good job of presenting themselves as that kind of approachable, appreciative, respectful construction brand, and they're doing some really cool projects.
That's so cool. It's funny you're mentioning stuff about thinking about brand, and it's not about like you so much as about the customer. It's one thing that I'm really trying to figure out in my messaging and the stuff that I put online is it's like nobody cares so much about me. I mean, to a certain point, maybe they do for if they're following my journey per se, but I'm really trying to think about, who is the type of person that's going to be listening to my podcast or want to come into the studio, and trying to think about like what's their problem and what's the state that they're trying to get to, and then trying to put the message about, hey, it's not about me. It's like, hey, what are you struggling with? And then how can I help with that? So it's a difficult thing to do to wrap kind of your
it
head
is,
around,
but it's good that you're thinking that way, because a lot of brands think about themselves first, understandably in certain contexts, but they kind of don't pay enough attention to those that are possibly listening to your podcast. It's like, what do I want to listen to or hear about, or what is somebody going to talk about that's really going to help me in my personal journey, business situation?
Right.
And that's tough for a lot of the clients we work with in the content they create, right? Like, they're going to write a blog, they're going to do a podcast, they're going to do a quick video, they're going to do all this. But is it really something that their customers want to hear and see and listen to? They're the ones that should be telling you what your content strategy is. Right.
Right.
And then they're also going to tell you what formats and channels, because that goes back to our market research. Is a lot of folks say, well, we got to be on this social platform. We got to be doing this. And then we'll ask, like, why?
Why? Exactly.
What research do you have in front of you that says, and don't tell me that you used AI,
well,
because
AI
I'll push back a little bit on that one as well, because show me the data sources. But when you talk to your customers, and they say, I Google it, or I listen to this on TikTok or whatever, they're the ones that are going to tell you where to go to talk to them and more like them. Like, that's great business intelligence.
Fascinating conversation, John. Thank you so much.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to leave you with the last word. If there is something that you want someone to take away from our conversation today, what would it be?
First is I guess with those soon to be graduating or young entrepreneurs, or what they're trying to do and move out into the world and kind of get new employment or get investors or grow a business or whatever it might be. I guess with that is network. build that network, really kind of get out there, get connected, go to events, meet new people, like really try. That story I told you about with me and the VC sitting there, like good for that person to show up and be at that event and come to us, like just walked up to us and started talking to us. Like that was great because they got a good bit of insight from our conversation. So I'd say that would be one thing. And network also, like push your profs at schools to bring in guest speakers. Like it's up to them to say, look, we want to learn about digital marketing. Do you know anybody in the sector that knows digital marketing? Like, I don't think a lot of the schools are proactively going out there to pull people in like myself. And I think they should do that to build the students' network. So that's on the one part. The other one I'm always going to say is brand. Like any company out there that is listening or watching this, like they should just stop for a second and say, what have we done around our brand? Like, do we have a really mapped out strategy? Awesome. Do we need to revisit that strategy? Okay, let's look at that. Do we have any clarity around who we are? No? Okay, well, then you need to get clarity because it has so much connection and impact on the rest of the business. So I'd say those are the two sides of my last word.
I love it. And on the message of connecting with people, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
LinkedIn is the main, yes, our company is on other platforms, but the company and myself and my business partner, Sarah, we're all on LinkedIn is the place to find us for sure.
Perfect.
Most active.
Excellent. Sean, again, thank you so much for coming. Fascinating conversation. Love the conversation.
Thank you.